I found my daughter carving symbols into her arms at 3 a.m., whispering that pain purifies the chosen ones. 6 months ago, she was captain of the volleyball team. Now she flinched when I touched her shoulder and called a stranger named Marcus her true father. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. The Georgia heat hit me like a wall when I stepped off that military transport. 14 months away on classified ops, and all I could think about was holding my family again. My name is Victor Kane, Delta Force operator for 12 years, and I'd seen things that would break most men. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what waited at home. My wife Natalie stood in the driveway, thinner than I remembered. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. That should have been my first warning. "Where's Harper?" I asked, scanning the windows of our two-story house. "She's resting. The heat's been rough on her." Natalie's hands twisted together, a nervous habit I'd never seen before. "Harper, my 17-year-old daughter. The kid who used to tackle me at the door whenever I came home. The one who sent me videos of her volleyball games, her laugh filling every message." I dropped my duffel bag and headed inside. The house felt different. Colder, despite the summer warmth. Photos were missing from the walls. The living room that used to burst with Harper's energy, sports trophies, college brochures scattered everywhere, her music playing constantly, now felt hollow. "Victor, maybe give her some space. She's been through a difficult time adjusting." I was already climbing the stairs. 13 months of hell in combat zones, and all I wanted was to see my daughter's face. Her bedroom door was closed. I knocked softly. "Harper? Baby girl, Dad's home." Silence. I knocked again. "Harper?" The door opened slowly. The girl standing there looked like Harper. Same brown hair, same hazel eyes, but everything else was wrong. She'd lost at least 20 pounds. Dark circles hung under her eyes like bruises. She wore a long-sleeved shirt despite the heat, and when she looked at me, there was no recognition in her gaze. No joy, just emptiness. "Harper." My voice cracked. "Hello, Victor." Her tone was flat, mechanical. She never called me Victor. It was always Dad or Daddy when she wanted something. I reached for her, but she stepped back. Actually stepped away from me like I was a threat. "I'm glad you're safe," she said in that same dead voice. "I need to prepare for evening reflection. Marcus says consistency in practice leads to spiritual clarity." Who the hell is Marcus? Something flickered in her eyes. Fear. Then it vanished behind that blank mask again. My spiritual guide. He's helped me understand my true purpose. We all have roles to play in the Great Awakening. The words sounded rehearsed, like she'd said them 1,000 times. Natalie appeared behind me, touching my arm. "Victor, let's talk downstairs." But I couldn't move. I was staring at my daughter's wrists, visible for just a moment as she adjusted her sleeves. Thin white scars crisscrossed her skin in deliberate patterns. "What happened to your arms?" Harper pulled her sleeves down quickly. "Purification rituals. Physical pain teaches us to transcend earthly attachments." Marcus says, "I don't give a damn what Marcus says." My voice came out harder than intended, years of command authority breaking through. What the hell happened while I was gone? Harper's expression didn't change, but tears started sliding down her cheeks. Silent tears, like she'd forgotten how to actually cry with sound. "You wouldn't understand. You're still trapped in the illusion of the old world. But Marcus can help you too, if you're willing to open your mind." She closed the door in my face. I stood there, hands still raised to knock again, my mind racing through possibilities. Drug addiction? Mental breakdown? Some kind of assault? Each option made my blood run colder. Natalie guided me downstairs to the kitchen. She poured coffee with shaking hands. "Start talking," I said quietly, the tone I used on enemies before interrogation. "Right now." "It started about 8 months ago," Natalie whispered, not meeting my eyes. "Harper's friend Ivy invited her to a wellness group. Just meditation and yoga, or so they said. It seemed harmless. Good for her college applications, community involvement, you know. And the meetings got more frequent. then overnight retreats. Then she started talking about this Marcus person like he was some kind of prophet. By the time I realized something was wrong, she'd already changed completely. Natalie's voice broke. I tried to stop her from going, but she's 17, Victor. She'd sneak out. She said I was persecuting her for her beliefs, that she'd report me for religious discrimination. You let our daughter get brainwashed by some cult while I was bleeding for this country? Natalie flinched. I didn't know what to do. I called her therapist, but Harper refused to go. I contacted the police, but they said without evidence of abuse, it's just a teenager exploring spirituality. I was alone, Victor. You were gone, and I was alone with this nightmare. I forced myself to breathe. Getting angry at Natalie wouldn't help Harper. Where is this group located? It's called the Ascension Wellness Center. About 30 minutes outside town, off Highway 47. But Victor, you can't just storm in there. Marcus has lawyers. He's connected to half the town council. And Harper, she won't leave willingly. She thinks he saved her life. I thought about my daughter's scarred wrists, her empty eyes, the way she flinched from my touch like I was the enemy. Tell me everything you know about Marcus, I said, pulling out my phone to start taking notes. Full name, background, everything. Natalie talked for an hour. Marcus Webb, 42, originally from California. Moved to Georgia 5 years ago and opened the wellness center. Charismatic, educated, spoke multiple languages. His followers, he called them students, came from good families. Teenagers mostly, but some adults too. He preached about transcending material existence and finding true purpose through his guidance. Classic cult tactics. I'd seen similar operations in Afghanistan, radical groups recruiting vulnerable people with promises of belonging and purpose. Did he hurt her physically? I couldn't say the words I was really thinking. I don't know, Natalie sobbed. She won't tell me anything anymore. She barely speaks to me except to quote Marcus's teachings. She stays in her room when she's home, which isn't often. Most nights, she's at the center for evening sessions that last until midnight or later. I went back upstairs after Natalie fell asleep from exhaustion around 10 p.m. Harper's door was still closed, but I could hear her voice through it. Low, repetitive, like she was reciting something over and over. I pressed my ear to the door. I am vessel for the greater truth. My body is temporary. My pain is illusion. Marcus sees my true self. Marcus guides my awakening. I am nothing without his wisdom. I am everything through his teaching. Over and over. The same phrases in that dead monotone. I tried the handle. Locked. Harper opened a door. The chanting stopped. Footsteps approached. The lock clicked. She stood there in the dim light from her room, and I finally saw what the long sleeves had hidden. Both arms covered in fresh cuts arranged in geometric patterns. Some still bleeding slightly. Jesus Christ. Physical sensation grounds us in present awareness, she recited. Marcus teaches that controlled pain breaks the ego's hold on consciousness. Would you like to learn? He welcomes all seekers. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused, like she was high on something, but I knew that look. I'd seen it in captured enemy combatants who'd been psychologically tortured. That wasn't drugs. That was systematic mental conditioning. Baby girl, this isn't you. Whatever this Marcus person told you, whatever he did, he saved me. Harper interrupted, and for the first time, emotion crept into her voice. Desperation. When Mom was falling apart because you left again, when I felt invisible and worthless, Marcus showed me I matter. He showed me my purpose. He sees me, Dad. Really sees me. I see you. I'm your father. You're a soldier who chooses war over his family. The words came out sharp, rehearsed. Marcus says men like you are trapped in cycles of violence because you fear true enlightenment. He says you'll try to stop my growth because it threatens your control. I felt like I'd been gut shot. Harper, I love you more than my own life. Love is an illusion designed to bind us to suffering. Marcus teaches, stop. I grabbed her shoulders gently. Stop saying what Marcus teaches and tell me what you think. What Harper thinks. My daughter, not his puppet. For just a second, I saw her. The real Harper. Scared, confused, trapped behind this programmed shell. Her lip trembled. Then the mask slammed back down. I need to sleep. Tomorrow is intensive training day. Marcus requires us to be rested for deep work. She closed the door again. Locked it. I stood in that hallway until sunrise, listening to my daughter whisper mantras in the darkness. When morning light finally broke through the windows, I made a decision. I'd eliminated terrorist cells, extracted hostages from impossible situations, survived firefights that should have killed me. Whatever Marcus Webb had done to my daughter, whatever hold he had on her mind, I was going to destroy it. Not with bullets or violence. I knew that would only push Harper deeper into his manipulation. No, this required a different kind of warfare. Psychological, strategic, patient. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. Marcus Webb, Ascension Wellness Center, cult deprogramming, legal options, support groups for families. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your daughter has found her true family. Accept her choice or lose her forever. M.W. Marcus Webb. He knew I was home. He knew I'd be a problem. Good. Let him know. Let him prepare. Because he had no idea what was coming. You don't take a Delta operator's child and expect to walk away unscathed. I'd spent my career hunting the most dangerous men on earth. Now I was hunting him. I heard Harper's door open. She came downstairs dressed in all white, a loose tunic and pants I'd never seen before. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like she was walking through water. I'm going to morning meditation, she announced to no one in particular. I'll drive you, I said. That's not necessary. Ivy picks me up. I insist. Father-daughter time. Something like panic crossed her face. Marcus prefers we arrive with our spiritual siblings. Outside family creates attachment conflicts. Marcus can prefer whatever he wants. I'm driving my daughter. I grabbed my keys, my tone leaving no room for argument. Harper looked terrified. Actually terrified of me meeting this man. What the hell had he done to her? Victor spent the next 3 days in his own personal hell. Harper stayed at the compound for intensive training, unreachable, and every hour felt like watching her disappear completely. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. His mind kept replaying that moment she flinched away from his touch. On the third night, Natalie finally cracked. She dropped a file folder on the kitchen table between them, her hands shaking. I need to show you something, she whispered. I should have shown you the day you got home, but I was terrified you'd do something that would make it worse. Victor opened the folder. Bank statements, phone records, text message screenshots printed on dozens of pages. His stomach dropped as he started reading. The bank statements told a clear story. February, small donations to Ascension Wellness Center, $20 or $30 at a time. March, the amounts jumped to hundreds. April, cash withdrawals totaling $900. May, $1,500. June through August, Harper had systematically drained her college fund. $8,000 gone. What was she buying? Victor's voice came out flat and cold. Private sessions with Marcus, Natalie said bitterly. $200 per hour for his personal spiritual guidance. She went 3, sometimes 4 times a week. Victor moved to the phone records. Hundreds of texts between Harper and a number registered to Marcus Webb. They started in February. Inspirational quotes, meditation reminders, gentle encouragement. Then March arrived and everything changed. You're more evolved than your peers. Most people never achieve your level of awareness. Your family loves you, but they can't understand what you're becoming. That's not their fault. They're operating at a different consciousness level. Come to the center tonight. I want to work with you personally on breaking through your last barriers. By April, Webb was texting Harper 40 times a day. Good morning affirmations. Check-ins during school. Late-night messages when Harper should have been sleeping. I'm proud of how you're separating from toxic family patterns. Your mother's concern is actually fear of losing control over you. The cutting practice we discussed, that's sacred work between us. Don't let others make you feel ashamed of your purification rituals. You're special, Harper. I don't say that to everyone. You have the potential to be one of my inner circle leaders. Victor's hands clenched the papers so hard they crumpled. This is grooming. Classic predator tactics. I know, Natalie sobbed. I didn't see it at first. He seemed harmless, helpful even. Then by the time I understood what was happening, she was completely devoted to him. She talked about Marcus like he was God himself. When did the cutting start? Natalie pulled out her phone and showed Victor photos she'd secretly taken. His daughter's arms covered in geometric patterns carved into her skin. Some old and scarred. Some fresh and bleeding. May, I think. I found blood on her bathroom towels and confronted her. She said Marcus taught her that physical pain breaks ego attachment and creates spiritual clarity. She said it was her choice, her body, her spiritual practice. When I threatened to call a therapist, she said she'd report me for violating her religious freedom. Victor felt rage building in his chest like a wildfire. Where is she now? Still at the center. She texted this morning saying she's staying through the weekend for advanced training. Natalie's voice broke completely. Victor, I think he's planning to keep her there permanently. There are other kids who basically live at that compound full-time. Their families never see them. Before Victor could respond, the front door opened. Harper walked in looking worse than Victor had ever seen her. Gray skin, sunken eyes, moving like every step caused pain. But her expression was eerily calm. Hi. She didn't specify who she was greeting. Didn't make eye contact with either parent. Sweetheart, you look exhausted, Natalie said carefully. Maybe you should rest. I came to tell you both something important. Harper sat down stiffly. Marcus has offered me a position as junior facilitator at the center. I'll be moving there permanently to help guide new students through their awakening process. No, Victor said simply. I'm almost 18. You can't legally stop me. Marcus explained my rights. But he suggested I tell you now, so we can start the transition smoothly. This Marcus really has all the answers, doesn't he? Victor's tone was ice. Something flickered in Harper's eyes. He's helped me more than either of you ever could. Before him, I was nobody. Invisible. Now I matter. I have purpose. You've always mattered. You're our daughter. Biological connection doesn't equal real family. Harper interrupted, her voice taking on that rehearsed quality. Marcus teaches that chosen family based on spiritual alignment is more authentic than blood ties based on obligation. Victor leaned forward. Let me see your arms. No. Harper, show me your arms right now. She pulled her sleeves down tighter. My body is my own. You don't get to. Victor reached across the table and gently but firmly caught her wrist, pulling up her sleeve before she could resist. Fresh cuts covered her forearm in elaborate patterns. Some were days old, scabbed and infected looking. Others were from today, still seeping blood through thin bandages. Natalie made a strangled sound. This is what your Marcus teaches. Victor demanded. Mutilation is spiritual growth? Harper yanked her arm back. You don't understand anything. These patterns are sacred geometry. Marcus personally designed them for my consciousness level. The physical sensation grounds me in present awareness and breaks ego attachment. It's healing work, not harm. It's abuse. It's liberation. Harper's calm shattered into desperate anger. Before Marcus, I felt worthless. My father chose war over being here. My mother cried herself to sleep every night. Nobody saw me. Then Marcus looked at me and really saw me. He showed me I'm special, that I have gifts, that I matter to something bigger than this meaningless suburban prison you call family. Every word hit Victor like ammunition designed specifically to wound him. He's manipulating you, Victor said quietly. Everything he's done, the love bombing, the isolation tactics, the financial exploitation, turning you against your family. These are textbook cult techniques. I've seen the same patterns in terrorist recruitment overseas. I knew you'd say that. Harper stood up, trembling with rage. Marcus warned me you'd pathologize my spiritual awakening because military conditioning teaches you to destroy anything you don't understand. He predicted every single thing you're doing right now. which proves he understands you better than you understand yourself. The room went silent. Victor recognized the trap. Marcus had built a belief system inside Harper's mind where every attempt to save her became proof of his teachings. Every expression of concern was reframed as control. Every act of love was reinterpreted as manipulation. "I'm leaving," Harper said, her voice dead again. "Marcus is waiting for me." She walked to the door, and this time Victor didn't try to stop her. Forcing her to stay would only drive her deeper into Webb's manipulation. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, Victor opened his laptop. "What are you doing?" Natalie asked. "Finding out everything about Marcus Webb. His history, his victims, his weaknesses. Nobody runs an operation this sophisticated without leaving a trail." Victor worked through the night, compiling intelligence like he was planning a military operation. By sunrise, he had a complete picture of Marcus Webb's predatory pattern across 4 states and 10 years. California 2015, sexual misconduct allegations from 3 students. Settled with NDAs. Center closed. Arizona 2017, parents sued after their daughter's suicide attempt. Case dismissed. Webb relocated. Nevada 2019, financial fraud investigation. Key witnesses recanted. Webb moved to Georgia. The pattern was clear. Find vulnerable targets, exploit them, disappear when consequences approached. But Georgia was different. 5 years in one location meant Webb had refined his methods, built stronger legal protections, gotten better at avoiding prosecution. Victor's phone buzzed at dawn. Unknown number. Video attachment. The video showed Harper in a white room with Marcus Webb standing behind her, hands on her shoulders. His voice was smooth and confident. "Victor Kane, war hero, trained killer. You think you understand control because you've mastered external violence. But I teach something deeper, control of consciousness itself. Harper chose me because I offer what you never could. Presence, understanding, unconditional acceptance. You can't fight this. Your daughter has found her true family. Walk away gracefully." The video ended with Harper looking up at Webb with complete trust while he smiled down like a father. Like her father. Victor replayed it 3 times, analyzing every detail. Then he texted back, "You made a mistake sending me that. Now I know exactly what kind of predator you are. I'm coming for my daughter. And when I'm done, you'll wish you'd never touched her." Webb's response was immediate. "That's a threat. I've forwarded it to our attorneys and local police. Harper is preparing a statement that she fears violence from you. Any interference will result in restraining orders. Don't make this worse." Victor smiled coldly. Webb thought he was dealing with an emotional father making desperate mistakes. He had no idea he'd just challenged an operator trained to dismantle networks more sophisticated than a small-town cult. The hunt had begun. Victor knew he couldn't storm the compound like a military target. Webb expected that, wanted it even. One aggressive move and Victor would have restraining orders, possibly assault charges, and Harper would be lost forever. So he did what Delta operators do best. He became invisible. The next morning, Victor drove to a storage facility 30 miles outside town and opened a unit he'd rented years ago. Inside were items from his previous life. Surveillance equipment, recording devices, a laptop with encrypted software, tools of intelligence gathering he'd hoped never to use on American soil. He spent 2 days transforming himself, grew out his stubble, wore civilian clothes that made him look soft, harmless, practiced the body language of a broken man seeking answers instead of a trained warrior planning an assault. Then he walked into the Ascension Wellness Center as a potential recruit. The front building looked like any yoga studio. Peaceful music playing. Smell of incense. A young woman named Tessa greeted him with a serene smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Welcome. Are you here for our introductory session?" "I am," Victor said, letting exhaustion color his voice. "My wife left me 6 months ago. I'm struggling to find purpose. A friend mentioned this place might help." Tessa's smile widened. "You've come to the right sanctuary. Marcus has helped so many find their way through darkness. Please, fill out this form. The questionnaire was designed perfectly. Questions about family relationships, financial situation, emotional vulnerabilities, support systems. Every answer gave Webb ammunition for manipulation. Victor filled it out honestly enough to seem genuine, dishonestly enough to seem like an ideal target. Divorced, financially stable, emotionally isolated, searching for meaning. The introductory session was held in a large room with 20 other people. Victor recognized the demographic immediately, mostly young adults in their late teens and 20s, a few older people who looked lost and desperate. Everyone sat on floor cushions in a circle. Marcus Webb entered like he owned the air itself. He was taller than Victor expected, with the kind of ageless face that could be 40 or 50. Athletic build. Warm brown eyes that seemed to see straight through you. His voice was rich and comforting. "Welcome, seekers," Webb began. "You're here because something inside you knows the world you've been living in is an illusion. Society tells you to chase money, status, relationships, all temporary things that can never fill the void. I'm here to show you what's real." For the next hour, Webb wove together psychology, spirituality, and emotional manipulation so skillfully that Victor almost admired the craftsmanship. He spoke about transcending ego, breaking free from family conditioning, finding your true self beyond societal programming. And he watched. Webb's eyes constantly scanned the room, noting who nodded along, who looked skeptical, who seemed most vulnerable. Those eyes landed on Victor twice. Assessing, calculating. After the session, Webb approached him directly. "You're carrying combat trauma," Webb said quietly. It wasn't a question. Victor let surprise show on his face. "How did you? I see what others miss. You move like a soldier. Your eyes scan exits. You're hyper-vigilant even in this peaceful space. What branch?" "Army. 2 tours overseas." The lie came easily. Webb's expression shifted to deep compassion. "The military breaks men and calls it training. You've been conditioned to violence, to hierarchy, to suppressing your authentic self. That's why you're struggling now. The real you is trying to emerge, but you don't know how to let it." Every word was designed to hook someone vulnerable. And Victor played along perfectly. "I don't know who I am anymore," he admitted. "Then let me help you remember." Webb placed a hand on Victor's shoulder, the same gesture Victor had seen him use with Harper in the video. "Possessive. Paternal. I offer private sessions for those ready for deeper work. $200 per hour. But I sense you need this. Your healing could inspire others. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. The mind creates obstacles when the spirit is ready to grow." Webb smiled warmly. "I'm offering a weekend intensive next week. $1,500, but it includes lodging, meals, and concentrated breakthrough work. Spaces are limited." Victor pretended to consider it. "Can I look around first? Get a feel for the place?" "Of course. Tessa will give you a tour." The tour revealed exactly what Victor expected. The main building held session rooms, a commercial kitchen, and Marcus's private office. Behind it, 2 residential cabins housed live-in students, Harper among them, though Tessa didn't mention names. Victor noted everything. Camera positions, door locks, window access, guard rotation patterns. The compound had security, but it was designed to keep people in, not trained operators out. During the tour, he glimpsed Harper through a window. She was leading a group of younger teens through meditation exercises, her voice flat and mechanical as she repeated Marcus's teachings word for word. His daughter had become a recruiter for her own abuser. Victor returned home and spent the night reviewing his reconnaissance. He'd planted 3 listening devices during the tour, one in the main session room, one near Marcus's office, one in the hallway outside the residential cabins. The audio he captured over the next 48 hours made his blood run cold. Marcus's private sessions weren't spiritual counseling. They were systematic psychological destruction followed by rebuilding in his own image. Victor listened to him break down a 19-year-old named Quinn, telling her that her family's love was conditional manipulation, that her depression was actually spiritual awakening, that only he truly understood her pain. He heard sessions where Marcus convinced students that financial sacrifice proved spiritual commitment, where he taught that physical pain through cutting or burning demonstrated transcendence of ego, where he isolated anyone who questioned his methods by having other students shame them for lacking faith. And he heard Marcus talk about Harper. She's perfect, Webb told someone, probably his second in command. Intelligent enough to lead others, damaged enough to need validation, young enough to mold completely. Her father's absence created the exact wound I needed. In 6 months, she'll be ready for advanced work. Then she'll bring in others just like her. Victor listened to that recording 5 times, memorizing every word. His phone rang. A Virginia number. Victor Kane. A male voice, professional. This is Agent Quentin Ross, FBI. I work in cult intervention and exploitation cases. Your name came up through channels as someone gathering intelligence on Marcus Webb. Who gave you my name? A mutual contact who knows you're trying to help your daughter. I can't get involved officially. Webb operates just inside legal boundaries. But unofficially, I've been watching him for 2 years. He's good, better than most. And he's hurt a lot of people. Tell me something I don't know. He has a pattern with teenage girls specifically, Ross said carefully. Gets them dependent on him emotionally, then escalates to physical control through cutting rituals and sleep deprivation. By the time families realize what's happening, the girls defend him viciously. 3 that I know of never fully recovered even after deprogramming. Victor's grip tightened on the phone. What about prosecution? Impossible. He's smart about consent, about framing everything as spiritual practice. And he has expensive lawyers who know how to use religious freedom laws. Every family who's tried to take him down legally has failed. Then what do you suggest? Ross was quiet for a moment. Legally? Nothing. I can't suggest anything that might compromise a federal agent's position. But if I were a father with your particular skill set, I'd remember that sometimes the law can't protect people from predators. Sometimes families have to. The call ended. Victor sat in the darkness of his home office, listening to the audio recordings on repeat. Marcus Webb's voice confidently explaining how he'd molded Harper into his perfect recruit, how he planned to use her to bring in more victims. His phone buzzed. Text from Harper. Stop investigating Marcus. He knows what you're doing. You're proving everything he said about you. Leave us alone. Victor stared at that message. Us. Not me. Us. His daughter now identified more with her abuser than her own family. He opened his laptop and began typing an encrypted message to his 3 Delta teammates, the ones who'd responded immediately when he first asked for help. Target confirmed as high-value threat. Multiple victims. Law enforcement unable to act. Requesting full surveillance package and extraction planning. This is personal, but I need you to keep it professional. Can't risk mistakes. 3 responses came within minutes. Blake, in town tomorrow. Bring my kit. Dominic, already pulled property records and background. This guy's a ghost with a history. I'll run financial forensics. Ryder, surveillance and counter-surveillance ready. When do we start? Victor looked at the compound layout he'd sketched from memory. Thought about Harper's empty eyes and scarred arms. About Marcus Webb's hand possessively gripping her shoulder. He typed one word. Now. The hunt had moved from intelligence gathering to operational planning. And Marcus Webb had no idea what was coming. Blake arrived first, driving a nondescript van packed with surveillance equipment that would make the NSA jealous. He'd put on weight since leaving Delta, but his eyes still had that operator's edge. Your daughter? He asked, setting up laptops on Victor's dining table. Harper, 17. Been with this bastard for 8 months. Blake didn't offer sympathy. He just nodded and got to work. That's what Victor needed, professionals, not comfort. Dominic showed up an hour later with 3 bankers' boxes full of documents. Former intelligence analyst, now private investigator. He spread financial records across the floor like a treasure map. Marcus Webb is a shell game, Dominic said. 6 LLCs across 4 states. Money flows through accounts in the Caymans, then back as donations. He's pulling $500,000 yearly minimum. And look at this, he showed Victor a property deed. The compound wasn't owned by Webb directly. It belonged to something called the Ascension Foundation, with Webb listed as spiritual director, not owner. Smart, Victor muttered. Insulates him from liability. Gets better. 3 former students tried to sue him in different states. All settled with NDAs and non-disparagement clauses. He paid them off to stay quiet. Ryder arrived last, all lean muscle and tactical precision. He'd gone into private security after Delta, mostly corporate work. Ran the perimeter last night. For cameras, motion sensors on the fence, 2 guards rotating shifts. Not military grade, but enough to spot amateurs. They worked for 3 days straight, building a complete intelligence picture. Blake's surveillance caught everything. Marcus conducting private sessions where he systematically broke down students' sense of self. Group meetings where he used peer pressure to enforce obedience. Late-night sessions in his private quarters with female students, including Harper. That footage made Victor want to put a bullet in Webb's skull. Easy, Blake said, seeing Victor's expression. We do this smart or we don't do it at all. Dominic traced the money. Students paying thousands for private sessions. Parents making donations they couldn't afford because Webb convinced them it would help their kids. Wealthy benefactors funding the compound in exchange for Webb's personal guidance. He's running a perfect con, Dominic said. Everything looks legitimate on paper. Wellness center registered as nonprofit. Students sign liability waivers. He even has testimonials from satisfied families. The families who haven't figured out what he's doing yet, Victor said darkly. Ryder mapped escape routes and entry points. Identified weak spots in security. Timed guard rotations down to the minute. If we wanted to extract Harper by force, we could, Ryder said. But that's kidnapping. Even with good intentions, you'd lose custody permanently. I know. Victor stared at the compound layout. We need her to come willingly. Or we need Webb gone. Gone how? Blake asked carefully. Legally. Arrested, prosecuted, removed from society. I'm not talking about killing him. I'm talking about destroying him the right way. They all relaxed slightly. Victor understood. They'd break laws for him. But murder was a line none of them wanted to cross. Then we need evidence that law enforcement can't ignore, Dominic said. Something so damning that even Webb's lawyers can't make it disappear. Victor thought about Agent Ross's words. The FBI had been watching Webb but couldn't act. Why? He called Ross back. What would it take? Victor asked without preamble. What evidence would force federal intervention? Ross hesitated. Evidence of trafficking, coercion of minors, financial crimes with clear paper trails. But Webb's careful. He doesn't leave obvious trails. What if someone inside documented everything? Daily logs, financial records, his manipulation techniques. You mean a witness willing to testify? That would change everything. But getting someone to flip is nearly impossible. These people are true believers. Victor thought about the audio he'd captured. Marcus talking about using Harper to recruit others. His systematic approach to psychological control. What about recordings of him admitting to his methods? Depends on the state's consent laws and how you obtain them. Georgia requires one-party consent for recordings, so if you're part of the conversation, it's legal. But secretly recording others without participation won't hold up in court. Victor smiled coldly. Then I guess I need to have some conversations with Marcus Webb. After Ross hung up, Victor laid out his plan. I'm going back undercover. Deeper this time. I'll attend the weekend intensive, get close to Webb, document everything from the inside. That's dangerous, Blake warned. If he recognizes you as Harper's father, he won't. I've changed my appearance, my background story checks out, and I fit his victim profile perfectly. Isolated military veteran searching for meaning. What about Harper? Dominic asked. She won't recognize me with the beard and different clothes. And even if she suspects something, she's too deep in his control to act on it. That hurt to say, but it was true. Ryder pulled up the intensive schedule. 3 days, isolated in the compound. No outside contact. Sleep deprivation, group pressure tactics, personal sessions with Webb. You'll be in his world completely. Good. That's where I'll catch him. Victor spent the next 2 days preparing. He memorized his cover story until it felt real. Practiced the body language of someone broken and searching. Recorded himself telling lies until they sounded like truth. Natalie watched him with growing fear. What if something goes wrong? What if he hurts you? He won't. I'm exactly what he wants. Vulnerable, financially stable, desperate for guidance. I'll be his star recruit. And Harper? Victor's jaw tightened. I'll see her. Talk to her if I can. But I can't break character. If she realizes I'm there for her, it'll ruin everything. The night before the intensive, Victor stood outside Harper's closed bedroom door. She'd come home briefly to pack more clothes, moving through the house like a ghost. He wanted to break down the door, grab her, force her to see what Webb was doing. But force would only drive her deeper into the cult's embrace. So he waited, listened to her moving around inside, heard her on the phone with someone, probably Marcus, speaking in that flat, mechanical voice that didn't sound like his daughter at all. I know, Marcus. I trust your guidance. Yes, I'll bring her tomorrow. She's perfect for our family. Victor's blood went cold. Harper was recruiting someone new. He texted Blake. Change of plans. Harper's bringing another victim to the intensive. Teenage girl. We need to protect her too. Blake's response was immediate. Understood. We'll have eyes on both of them. Friday morning, Victor drove to the compound with $1,500 cash and a recording device hidden in his belt buckle. The technology was nearly invisible, FBI-grade equipment Blake had acquired through channels Victor didn't ask about. 10 other people gathered for the intensive. Victor recognized the type. Lost souls seeking answers, vulnerable people in crisis, true believers already halfway converted. And Harper. She stood near the entrance with a girl about 16, brown hair, nervous energy. The new recruit. Harper's eyes passed over Victor without recognition. He was just another broken stranger to her. Another person Marcus would save. Marcus Webb appeared, radiating warmth and authority. His gaze swept the group and landed on Victor with obvious satisfaction. Welcome home, seekers, Webb said. This weekend, you'll discover who you truly are beneath the lies society taught you. Some of you will resist. That resistance is your ego fighting for survival. Let it die. I'll show you what comes after. He smiled, and Victor saw the predator behind the spiritual mask. The intensive had begun, and Victor was about to document everything that happened inside Marcus Webb's kingdom of manipulation. The weekend intensive was psychological warfare disguised as spiritual awakening. Marcus Webb was a master, and Victor watched him work with the cold analysis of someone who'd studied enemy tactics for years. Friday night started with sleep deprivation. Group meditation sessions that lasted until 3 a.m., followed by wake-up calls at 6. By Saturday afternoon, everyone was exhausted, their defenses weakened. Webb used the vulnerability perfectly. Your families tell you they love you, he said during a session, his voice hypnotic in the dim room. But love is just control with a prettier name. They want you small, manageable, predictable. I want you free. The new girl Harper brought, her name was Brooke, was crying quietly. Harper sat beside her, holding her hand, whispering reassurances that sounded exactly like Marcus's teachings. Victor's recording device captured everything. Saturday evening brought private sessions. When Victor's turn came, Webb led him to a small room with nothing but cushions and candles. Tell me about your war, Webb said. Victor fed him the story carefully. Enough truth to seem authentic, enough lies to protect his real identity. Talked about violence, guilt, feeling disconnected from civilian life. Webb leaned forward. The military taught you to kill your conscience. Told you it was duty, honor, service. But really, they just needed weapons that looked like men. You were never a soldier, Victor. You were a slave who believed he was free. Every word was designed to break him down. And Victor let it work, playing the role of someone desperate to believe. I don't know how to live anymore, Victor said, injecting real emotion into his voice. Nothing feels real. Because you're still trapped in their programming. But I can reprogram you. Help you become who you were meant to be. Webb placed his hand on Victor's shoulder, that same possessive gesture. It requires complete trust, complete surrender. Can you give me that? I want to try. Good. Webb smiled. Tomorrow, we do deeper work. Physical purification rituals that break ego attachment. Some find it painful, but pain is just sensation. What matters is transcendence. Victor knew exactly what that meant. The cutting rituals. The same abuse he'd inflicted on Harper and countless others. I trust you, Victor lied smoothly. That night, he couldn't sleep. Not from Webb's techniques, but from rage. He lay on a thin mat in the residential cabin, listening to other participants whisper in the darkness about their breakthroughs and revelations. Harper was in the cabin too, 3 beds away. Victor heard her comforting Brooke, who was crying. Marcus sees something special in you, Harper whispered. That's why this feels so intense. You're fighting your own transformation. Let it happen. Brooke's voice was small. My parents will be so mad I came here. That's fear talking. Marcus says families use fear to maintain control. Your parents are afraid of losing their power over you. Victor wanted to scream. His daughter had become Webb's perfect instrument of manipulation, recruiting and indoctrinating new victims with the same poison that destroyed her. Sunday morning brought the purification ritual. Webb gathered everyone in the main room and demonstrated the cutting technique on his own arm. Shallow, controlled, arranged in geometric patterns. Physical sensation grounds consciousness in the present moment, he explained. Pain reveals truth the mind hides. Who's ready to transcend? 3 people volunteered immediately, including Brooke. Harper helped them, guiding their hands, repeating Marcus's words like scripture. Victor volunteered too, had to maintain his cover. Webb handed him a sterilized blade. Start small, just enough to feel sensation without attachment to it. Victor made a shallow cut on his forearm, letting blood well up. It was nothing compared to injuries he'd sustained in combat, but he played it like a profound experience. Gasped, closed his eyes. Let Webb interpret his reaction as spiritual awakening instead of controlled performance. Beautiful, Webb said quietly. You're beginning to understand. The recording device captured Webb encouraging minors to cut themselves, documented him directing the ritual, proved his systematic approach to physical abuse masked as spiritual practice. By Sunday evening, when the intensive ended, Victor had 48 hours of damning audio. Webb admitting he reprogrammed people, describing his techniques in detail, acknowledging that families resist because they fear losing control. But would it be enough? Monday morning, Victor met with Agent Ross at a coffee shop 30 miles from town. He handed over copies of everything: audio files, video from Blake's external surveillance, financial documents from Dominic. Ross listened to the recordings with a grim expression. This is good work, he finally said. But it's not enough for federal charges. What? Victor's voice came out sharp. You just heard him. I heard a spiritual leader conducting controversial but technically legal practices. Everything was consensual. Everyone there was a willing participant, including minors whose parents allowed them to attend. Webb's smart about consent forms and liability waivers. He's abusing kids, grooming them. My daughter's arms are covered in scars he told her to carve. I believe you. But belief isn't evidence that holds up in federal court. Religious freedom protections are strong. Unless we can prove coercion, trafficking, or clear financial fraud, prosecutors won't touch this. Victor felt something inside him crack. So he just keeps destroying lives? That's the answer. I'm saying federal prosecution isn't the answer right now. But state charges might be different. Georgia has laws against contributing to the delinquency of minors. And if you can get other families to come forward, they won't. Webb makes them sign NDAs when they settle. Then break the NDAs. Find families willing to risk legal consequences to stop him. Build a coalition. Make enough noise that local authorities can't ignore it. Victor left that meeting with his recordings and no clear path forward. The system designed to protect children couldn't touch Marcus Webb because he'd learned exactly how to operate within its gaps. He went home and found Natalie crying in Harper's empty bedroom. "She texted me," Natalie said. "She's not coming home anymore. Moving to the compound permanently. She says Marcus is her real family now, and we need to respect her choice." Victor pulled out his phone and opened the private Facebook group for Webb's victims' families. 43 members. 43 families destroyed. He started typing. "My name is Victor Kane. Marcus Webb has my 17-year-old daughter. The FBI can't help. Local police won't act. If you're tired of suffering in silence, if you're ready to fight back, I'm organizing. We're going to do what the system can't. We're going to save our kids." Within an hour, 12 families responded. Within 24 hours, Victor had 20 families ready to break their NDAs, violate their settlements, and go to war against Marcus Webb. The system had failed them. Now they'd have to save their children themselves. 20 families met in the back room of a church 40 miles outside town. Victor saw his own desperation reflected in their faces. Mothers who hadn't seen their daughters in months. Fathers who'd lost sons to Marcus Webb's manipulation. Parents drowning in guilt and rage. A woman named Clara spoke first, her voice breaking. "My son Adrian was 19. Honor student. Full scholarship to Georgia Tech. 3 months at that compound and he withdrew from school. Gave Marcus his entire college fund. And now he won't speak to me. Says I'm toxic energy holding him back." Others shared similar stories. A daughter who attempted suicide when her parents tried to intervene. A son who legally emancipated himself at 17 to stay with Webb permanently. Twin sisters who turned on each other when one tried to leave. "The police told me it's a religious freedom issue," said a father named Grant. "My lawyer said we can't prove coercion because my daughter signed consent forms. The therapist I hired can't see her because she's legally allowed to refuse treatment. Every door is closed." Victor stood. "Then we stopped knocking on doors. We build our own path." He laid out his intelligence, surveillance footage, financial records, audio recordings from inside the compound. Showed them Webb's pattern of exploitation across multiple states. Explained how he'd perfected his methods to stay just inside legal boundaries. "He thinks he's untouchable," Victor said. "But every predator has vulnerabilities. We find them, we exploit them, and we bring our kids home." Blake stepped forward. "I'm former Delta, like Victor. I've been running surveillance on the compound for 2 weeks. Webb has security, but it's designed to keep amateurs out. We can breach it. I'm not suggesting we kidnap our children," Victor interrupted, seeing the hope and fear in the parents' faces. "That would only make things worse. But we can gather evidence they can't ignore. Document everything happening inside those walls. Force authorities to act." Dominic spread financial documents across a table. Webb's money comes from 3 sources: student payments, wealthy benefactors, and front companies that funnel cash through the Caymans. If we can prove financial fraud with a clear paper trail, federal prosecutors have no choice but to investigate. "How do we prove fraud?" Clara asked. "We need someone inside. Someone Webb trusts. Someone who can access his private records." Dominic looked at Victor. "You already infiltrated once. Can you go deeper?" Victor thought about Harper's empty eyes. About Brooke being groomed as the newest victim. About all the children trapped in Webb's web. "I can, but I need leverage. Something that makes Webb want me close." Ryder had been quiet until now. "You're a decorated veteran. Webb's been trying to attract older, wealthier recruits to expand his donor base. What if you offered him something he wants?" "Like what?" "Access to military veterans. Tell him you want to start a program bringing former soldiers to the Center for PTSD treatment. Offer to fund it yourself. Make yourself valuable enough that he brings you into his inner circle. It was risky. Going deeper meant more time away from helping Harper directly. But it might be their only chance to gather evidence that could actually bring Webb down. I'll do it, Victor said. Over the next week, Victor transformed himself into Marcus Webb's ideal recruit. He attended group sessions twice daily, volunteered for advanced training, and demonstrated complete devotion to Webb's teachings. Then he made his move. I want to help other veterans, Victor told Webb during a private session. The military destroys men and calls it duty. I know hundreds who are suffering like I was. What if we created a specialized program? I could recruit them, fund the initial phase, bring them here for real healing. Webb's eyes lit with calculated interest. That's ambitious. It would require resources. I have resources. Military disability payments, savings, connections to veteran organizations. Victor leaned forward. But I need your direct guidance. These men need someone who understands transformation at the deepest level. This would be significant work, Webb said carefully. It would require you to be here full-time, living at the center, working closely with me to develop the program. Perfect. Exactly what Victor wanted. I'm ready for that commitment. My old life is dead anyway. Why not build something meaningful? Webb studied him for a long moment. Victor kept his expression open, vulnerable, eager. You'd need to prove your dedication first, Webb finally said. Complete our leadership intensive. 4 weeks of immersive training. Only my most trusted students proceed to inner circle work. When do I start? Next Monday. It's expensive, $10,000 for the full program. Victor didn't hesitate. I'll have the cash by Friday. That money came from the coalition of families, pooled together to fund the operation. Every dollar was a piece of their desperation and hope. When Victor moved into the compound full-time, he brought more than clothes and cash. Hidden in his belongings were micro cameras, recording devices, and encrypted communication equipment Blake had provided. You'll be in there blind, Blake warned. We can monitor video feeds remotely, but you won't be able to contact us directly without blowing your cover. I know. If something goes wrong, it won't. But Victor knew the risks. He was walking into the predator's den and offering himself as prey. One mistake, one slip in his cover, and Webb would destroy him. The leadership intensive was brutality disguised as enlightenment. Webb used sleep deprivation, controlled substances presented as meditation aids, and psychological manipulation that would break most people. Victor endured it all, played the role of someone being transformed while staying coldly analytical inside. And he documented everything. Hidden cameras caught Webb's private sessions with students, including Harper, recorded him using isolation tactics, shaming techniques, and emotional manipulation that went far beyond spiritual guidance. Audio devices captured conversations Webb thought were private, him discussing with his lieutenants which families to target next, which students were ready for advanced exploitation, how to hide money from the IRS. But the worst discovery came in week 3, when Webb brought Victor into his inner circle planning meetings. We're expanding, Webb announced to his core group of 6, Victor, Harper, and 4 others who'd been with him longest. I've identified locations in Tennessee and South Carolina. Once we establish satellites, we can move students between compounds. Makes it harder for families to track them, harder for authorities to investigate. Harper took notes without expression, completely devoted to Webb's vision. Victor, your veteran program is key, Webb continued. Military men have discipline, resources, and credibility. Once we convert enough of them, they become recruiters themselves. Each one brings 5 more. Exponential growth. Victor nodded like this was brilliant strategy, not a blueprint for expanding his predatory operation across the Southeast. That night, he uploaded everything to Blake's encrypted server. The evidence was overwhelming now. Financial fraud, systematic exploitation of minors, conspiracy to expand operations across state lines. But would it be enough? Or would Webb's lawyers and religious freedom defenses protect him one more time? Victor's phone, kept hidden and only checked in the bathroom late at night, showed a message from Agent Ross. Evidence is strong. Building federal case. Need 2 more weeks for warrants. 2 more weeks of watching Harper slip further away. 2 more weeks of pretending loyalty to the man destroying his daughter. Victor could endure it. He'd survived worse in combat. But when he saw Harper that night, leading a session where she taught new students the cutting ritual, using the exact words Webb had used on her, something inside him nearly broke. His daughter wasn't just a victim anymore. She was becoming like Webb, a predator creating new victims. And Victor didn't know if he could save her before the transformation became permanent. Victor's 4th week undercover ended with Webb making an announcement that changed everything. We're moving our most dedicated students to the Tennessee location this weekend, Webb told the inner circle. 15 of you, including Harper. It's time to establish our second sanctuary. Victor's blood went cold. If Harper left Georgia, extracting her would become exponentially harder. Different state, different jurisdiction, new legal complications. He had to act now. That night, he broke protocol and contacted Blake using the encrypted phone hidden in his bathroom toiletries. They're moving Harper out of state in 3 days. We're out of time. Blake's response came immediately. Ross says warrants won't be ready for another week minimum. If we extract her by force, you lose all legal standing. Then we don't extract by force. We extract legally. How? Victor's mind raced through possibilities. Webb's holding a family visitation day on Saturday. PR moved to show parents everything's fine. Natalie can attend. If we can get Harper alone with her mother for even 10 minutes, maybe we can break through. That's a long shot. It's the only shot we have. Victor spent the next 2 days positioning himself as Webb's most trusted lieutenant. He volunteered to help organize the family visitation, which gave him access to the schedule and security arrangements. Webb was too confident, too comfortable with his control. He actually believed the families would see happy, healthy children and walk away reassured. Saturday morning arrived with perfect Georgia sunshine. 15 families came through the gates, nervous and hopeful. Victor watched them from his position as greeter, noting which parents looked broken, which looked angry, which looked desperate enough to try something stupid. Natalie arrived at 10 a.m. Victor caught her eye briefly and gave the smallest nod. She understood. They'd planned this carefully over encrypted messages. The families were led to the main building where Webb had staged an elaborate presentation. Students demonstrated meditation techniques, shared testimonials about their transformations, and served organic refreshments they'd prepared themselves. Harper stood beside Webb like his personal assistant, smiling that empty smile, greeting parents with rehearsed warmth that had no life behind it. Victor watched Natalie's face crumble when she saw her daughter. The presentation lasted an hour. Then Webb announced supervised family time in the garden, 30 minutes, with facilitators present to ensure conversations stayed positive. Victor had positioned himself as one of those facilitators. Natalie approached Harper carefully, like approaching a wild animal that might bolt. You look tired, sweetheart. I'm fine, Mom. Better than fine. I'm fulfilled. Harper's voice was flat, mechanical. Can we walk? Just the 2 of us for a few minutes. Harper glanced at Webb, who nodded permission. They walked toward the far end of the garden where Victor had disabled one security camera during his morning rounds. Victor stayed close enough to intervene if needed, far enough to give them privacy. He couldn't hear their conversation, but he saw Natalie crying, saw Harper's mask crack slightly before slamming back into place, saw the moment Natalie tried to hug her daughter and Harper stepped away. Then everything went wrong. Another parent, Grant, whose son Adrian was also being moved to Tennessee, had apparently reached his breaking point. Victor heard shouting from across the garden and turned to see Grant physically grabbing his son's arm, trying to pull him toward the exit. You're coming home right now, Grant yelled. Adrian fought back. Other students surrounded them. Within seconds, chaos erupted. Webb's security moved in fast. Too fast. They weren't just preventing a disturbance, they were trained for this exact scenario. Victor realized with cold clarity that Webb had expected someone to try something, maybe even wanted it, to demonstrate to other families how futile resistance was. Security grabbed Grant. Adrian was screaming that his father was assaulting him. Other parents started moving toward their children, seeing this as their chance. Victor made a split-second decision. He grabbed Natalie and Harper. This way. Now. What are you? Harper started. You're in danger. Both of you. Move. He pulled them toward the rear exit while everyone's attention was on the confrontation. Years of tactical training kicked in. Victor knew exactly where every guard was positioned, exactly which route would get them out unseen. Let go of me. Harper fought his grip. Marcus will think I'm leaving. You are leaving. Victor's voice went hard and cold. Your mother's taking you home. They reached the parking lot. Natalie's car was 50 feet away. Harper realized what was happening and started screaming. Help! Someone help me. They're kidnapping me. Victor had prepared for this. He swept Harper off her feet, carried her to the car while she fought and screamed. Got her in the back seat. Drive, he told Natalie. Don't stop for anything. Who are you? Harper was hysterical now, clawing at the door handles. Why are you doing this? Victor pulled off his fake glasses, ran his hand through his hair to change its appearance. Looked his daughter in the eye for the first time in a month. It's me, baby girl. It's Dad. Harper's face went through shock, recognition, then pure rage. You lied. You infiltrated. You betrayed Marcus's trust. I saved you. I didn't need saving. Harper was sobbing now, pounding on the windows. Take me back. Please take me back. Marcus will think I abandoned him. He'll never forgive me. Good, Victor said coldly. That's exactly what I want. Natalie drove, while Harper broke down completely in the back seat. Not crying like his daughter used to cry, but wailing like someone whose entire world was ending. Because to her it was. Victor's phone exploded with messages. Blake, security is searching the compound. Webb called the police. You need to move fast. Victor called their lawyer, Paige Rothman, who'd been on standby. We have Harper. Webb will claim kidnapping. What do we do? Get her to the hospital immediately, Paige said. Document every scar, every sign of psychological abuse. File for emergency psychiatric evaluation. That gives you legal grounds to hold her for 72 hours. They drove straight to the county hospital. Harper fought them every step. Nurses had to help restrain her while a psychiatrist conducted an evaluation. Dr. Morgan was in her 50s, calm and professional despite Harper's hysteria. She documented the cutting scars, the signs of sleep deprivation, the psychological markers of systematic manipulation. This is clear evidence of abuse and coercive control, Dr. Morgan told Victor and Natalie. I'm authorizing a 72-hour psychiatric hold. She's a danger to herself. I'm not crazy, Harper screamed. They're the ones who are crazy. Marcus warned me this would happen. He said my family would use institutions against me. Webb said that because he knew we'd eventually get you away from him, Victor said quietly. He prepared you to resist help so he could keep control. You don't understand anything. Harper's voice broke. He loves me. He's the only one who ever really loved me. Then why did he make you cut yourself? Why did he take your college money? Why did he isolate you from everyone who actually cares about you? Harper had no answer. She just cried in that broken way that tore Victor's heart apart. His phone rang. Agent Ross. Federal warrants just came through. We're raiding the compound in 1 hour. Webb's going down for financial fraud, conspiracy, and contributing to the delinquency of multiple minors. The evidence you gathered sealed it. Victor stepped into the hallway. What about the other kids? The ones being moved to Tennessee. We've contacted Tennessee authorities. They'll intercept the transport. All students are being returned to their families pending investigation. How many will fight to go back? Ross was quiet for a moment. Most of them. That's how this works. Webb spent months making them believe he's their savior. Deprogramming takes time. Victor looked through the window at Harper, strapped to a hospital bed, still crying for the man who destroyed her. How much time? Months. Maybe years. Some never fully recover. Ross paused. But you got her out. That's the hardest part. The rest is just healing, and healing is possible. Victor ended the call and went back to his daughter's room. Harper looked at him with pure hatred. I'll never forgive you for this. I know, Victor said, but you're alive. You're safe. And someday, maybe you'll understand that's all that matters. He sat down beside her bed, prepared to stay as long as it took. The extraction was complete. Now came the harder battle, bringing his daughter back from the psychological warfare Marcus Webb had waged on her mind. The sun hadn't even risen when Victor pulled into the dirt road leading to the Ascension compound. Flashing lights painted the trees red and blue. Agents in tactical gear swept through the property, shouting commands, while terrified voices echoed from the main building. Marcus Webb's kingdom was falling apart, and Victor was there to watch it burn. He stepped out of the car with Agent Ross by his side. Stay close, Ross warned. He's dangerous, but we need him alive. The victim's statements, and your recordings, make this airtight. Victor nodded. But deep down, he didn't want Webb alive. He wanted justice one-on-one. The compound was chaos. Students were being escorted out by agents, some crying, others confused, still murmuring Webb's teachings under their breath. Harper wasn't among them. That much Victor confirmed immediately, heart pounding until Ross pointed toward a cabin near the rear fence. She's there. Victor didn't wait for permission. He ran. Inside the cabin, Harper sat on the floor, staring blankly at the wall, while another girl clung to her arm, terrified. The moment Victor entered, Harper recoiled. Go away, she whispered. They said you'd come. Marcus said you'd destroy everything because you can't stand not being in control. They lied to you, Harper, Victor said softly. You're free now. It's over. A commotion outside made both of them turn. Through the window, Marcus Webb was being dragged out in cuffs. He looked disheveled but calm, flashing the same magnetic smile he used to charm everyone who came near him. Harper, Victor said quietly, nodding toward the window. That's the man you said loved you. Does that look like love to you? Harper stood, trembling, staring at Webb as he addressed his followers with sick charisma even while restrained. This is not the end. Webb's voice cut through the air like a sermon. They fear our awakening. They fear those who see truth beyond law and control. You are my family. Hold faith, and I will return to you. Some students cried out, trying to run to him. Agents blocked them. Harper took a shaky step forward, watching her savior scream empty promises while chains clanked around his wrists. For the first time, his performance cracked. His confidence slipped under the weight of handcuffs and flashing cameras. Victor spoke, voice even but cutting. That's not faith, Harper. That's control. He used your love against you. Tears welled in Harper's eyes. He said you'd twist everything, because he knew if you saw the truth, you'd break free. Agents pulled Webb toward a waiting truck. The crowd of students began to split, some screaming for him, others frozen in realization. Harper stood at the window, watching her world collapse. Then Webb did something Victor would never forget. He turned his head toward Harper, locking eyes with her through glass. Harper, he shouted, you are my light. Don't let them poison your soul. That shattered her completely. She lunged for the door, screaming, Marcus! Victor caught her before she reached it. Don't you see? He's still controlling you, even now. He'll rot in prison, and if you follow him, he'll destroy every last piece of you too. Harper collapsed in his arms, sobbing. I believed him. I thought he saved me. You were the one who saved yourself, Victor said. You survived him. Outside, agents loaded Webb into the transport van. Ross joined Victor. It's done. We have everything. The FBI, state, federal, everyone's on this now. Financial records, abuse testimony, recordings. He's finished. Victor held Harper while the sirens faded down the dirt road. The moment Webb's figure disappeared, Her sobs turned to silent shaking. "Dad?" she whispered weakly. "What if part of me still believes him?" "Then that's the part he tried hardest to break. It'll take time, but you'll get it back." Later that afternoon, as agents cataloged evidence, one officer approached Victor with a box filled with confiscated items: journals, ledgers, notes. "We think this one belonged to your daughter." Inside was Harper's notebook. She opened it slowly, hands trembling. Every page held Marcus's phrases written over and over. "Pain purifies. Family binds. Marcus frees." At the bottom of the last page, dated 2 nights before the raid, were 6 words that made Victor's throat tighten. Maybe Dad was right about him. Ross joined them. "We're taking Webb to Atlanta for interrogation. He'll face charges for fraud, coercion, and unlawful psychological manipulation. With the evidence you gathered, this case might redefine how we prosecute cults." Harper stared out at the shattered compound. "All those kids, they'll hate you. They'll heal, the same way you will," Victor said. "It'll take time, but at least now they get to live." A scream cut through the air from somewhere behind the compound. Webb's top disciple, an older woman named Giselle, had collapsed as agents searched her quarters. Victor watched as she was led away, eyes vacant, whispering Webb's name like a prayer. This was the aftermath of devotion twisted into chains. Hours later, Webb was gone. The students were loaded onto buses to reunite with families. The sun had fully set by the time Harper whispered, "I'm scared of going home." "That's okay," Victor said softly. "You don't have to be healed today. You just have to keep breathing." As they stood at the edge of the compound, floodlights illuminating Webb's shattered empire, Victor finally allowed himself to breathe too. The war was over, but the healing, the quiet, human part, was just beginning. Behind them, the compound stood empty, stripped of illusion. The kingdom of Marcus Webb had fallen, and for the first time in months, the night air felt clean. The trial began 3 months after the raid. The courthouse was packed. Journalists, parents, former victims, and reporters from every major outlet. Marcus Webb, dressed in a gray suit and wearing that same eerie calm, walked into the courtroom surrounded by U.S. Marshals. He looked more like a pastor attending Sunday service than a man facing decades in prison. Victor sat in the front row, next to Natalie and Harper. His hands were steady, but his chest carried the slow burn of months of rage restrained by patience. Harper looked pale but composed, her expression unreadable. This was the first time she'd seen Marcus since the raid. Webb turned as he sat, scanning the gallery until his eyes locked with hers. He smiled faintly, and for a second, Victor felt Harper flinch beside him. That tiny reaction reminded him this wasn't just a legal battle. It was psychological warfare that still hadn't ended. The prosecution began with calm precision. They didn't dramatize. They built their case like brickwork. Agent Ross presented recordings from the covert operation, video of Webb leading cutting rituals, audio of his private conversations with his lieutenants. Each clip displayed his manipulation laid bare. "This man weaponized vulnerability," Ross told the jury. "He targeted young people in emotional distress, convinced them pain was awakening, and turned love into obedience. This was not faith, it was psychological slavery." The defense countered with the same playbook Webb had always used: religious freedom, voluntary consent, misunderstood teachings. Their argument was simple. Every participant joined willingly. The courtroom buzzed with tension each time they said the word willingly. When the prosecution called Harper to testify, the atmosphere shifted completely. Victor's body tensed as she walked to the stand in her blue blouse and jeans. Humble, human, fragile, and strong all at once. She answered the lawyer's questions with calm honesty. How she met Webb, how he made her feel special, how his teachings slowly replaced her family, how he told her suffering meant enlightenment. Then the prosecutor asked, "When did you realize what he truly was?" Harper hesitated, her voice trembling. "The night he made me cut myself deeper," because I told him I missed my dad. He said love was the enemy of growth, that I needed to destroy all attachments. I thought I was freeing myself, but really, I was just giving him control. The courtroom went silent. Even Webb's defense lawyer looked uneasy. Did Marcus Webb ever tell you not to speak to your family? Yes. He said my father's voice was poison, that soldiers like him couldn't understand peace. Harper's gaze met Victor's briefly. He turned me against the person who loved me most because that's how he kept me weak. When the prosecutor finished, Webb rose for his cross-examination. Against his lawyer's advice, he insisted on questioning Harper himself. His voice was soft, almost gentle. Harper, do you still meditate? Yes. So you still practice what I taught you? No, Harper said firmly. I took back what you stole. Meditation isn't yours. None of it ever was. You came to me willingly. You told me you wanted transformation. I came broken. You promised to heal me. Instead, you broke me more. Webb tried to keep his composure, but a flicker of frustration cracked through his polished demeanor. The illusion of control that defined his power was slipping. What we built was sacred, he said suddenly, his voice rising. You're ungrateful because you don't understand sacrifice. Harper didn't flinch. You don't understand love. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Webb's lawyer whispered frantically for him to stop, but the outburst had already sealed his fate. The predator had shown his true face in front of the jury. By the time closing arguments ended, nobody doubted what Marcus Webb was, a manipulator hiding behind spirituality. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. When the foreman read the verdict, guilty on all counts, Harper exhaled a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Natalie wept quietly beside Victor. Around them, families hugged, relief and grief blending into something wordless but real. At sentencing, the judge didn't hold back. Mr. Webb, you exploited trust, isolated children, and stripped them of humanity while claiming to free their souls. You've caused harm beyond measure. This court sentences you to 25 years in federal custody without parole. Webb's mask finally cracked. The calm smile vanished, replaced by disbelief. He looked at Harper one last time and whispered, "You'll miss me." "No," she said softly. "I'll heal from you." 2 weeks after the sentencing, the compound was bulldozed. Webb's first temple of awakening became an empty field of broken bricks and turned soil. Families came together for a private gathering there, a vigil for what they lost and what they'd reclaimed. Harper stood beside Victor, holding a white candle. "Every time I think about him, I still get angry," she said quietly. "Sometimes, I even miss the way he made me feel important. And then I hate myself for that." Victor nodded. "That's how recovery works. It's not forgetting, it's understanding." She looked up at the sky, long and heavy with dusk. "Do you ever wish you just killed him that night?" "Every day," Victor admitted. "But that would have made him a martyr, not a monster. Now the world sees him for what he is. That's the real bullet." Harper gave a small, tired smile. "You really think he's gone?" "Physically, yes. But men like him never disappear completely. They hide in different names, different faces. The goal isn't to erase them. It's to make sure the world never forgets what they are." Weeks turned into months. Harper started therapy twice a week and slowly began rebuilding her routines, college applications, volunteering with other survivors, talking openly about recovery. Some days she still woke up screaming, dreaming of Webb's voice. But other days, she laughed with her mother over breakfast or texted Victor funny memes at midnight just to prove she was still there. Progress came slowly, but it came. One afternoon, Harper asked Victor to drive her to the coast. They sat watching the waves crash against the rocks. "I thought I belonged to him," she said quietly. "But now I think maybe I was meant to survive him." Victor looked at her, proud and broken all at once. "You did more than survive him, Harper. You exposed him. You saved others." She nodded, staring at the horizon. "Maybe someday, that will feel enough. For now, though, it was a start." Almost a year had passed since the raid. Yet some mornings still started with silence heavy enough to feel physical. The kind that carried memories. The whisper of Marcus says, echoing faintly in forgotten corners of the mind. But this morning was different. This morning, sunlight found its way through the curtains and landed on Harper's desk, where college textbooks replaced the old journals that once chained her thoughts. She was 19 now, finishing her first semester in psychology. Her professors called her brilliant. Her therapist called her resilient. Victor simply called her home. Every morning before class, Harper brewed coffee for both of them. That quiet ritual had become a sign of peace. A small, ordinary act that meant the nightmare was, finally, behind them. Victor watched her move around the kitchen, the same kitchen where she once screamed that he was destroying her life. Now she laughed easily, warmth in her voice. The scars on her arms remained faint but visible, reminders of how deep Marcus Webb's reach had gone. But they no longer looked like marks of pain. They looked like proof of survival. "Big day today," Victor said, taking his mug. "Your talk after class?" Harper smiled. "Yeah. The community panel on trauma recovery. They asked me to share my story. Do you feel ready?" "No," she said honestly, "but I think that's the point." She placed her notes in her bag and paused. "Dad, yeah. Are you okay with me telling everything? Even the part about the extraction?" Victor nodded slowly. "If telling it helps someone else survive what you did, then tell it all." Harper hesitated. "It still feels strange. Every time I think about that place, about him, part of me remembers believing he was good. That scares me." Victor reached across the counter and took her hand. "That's not weakness, Harper. That's the part of you that was manipulated, not the part that defines you. You faced it, and that's what makes you stronger." She looked at him with quiet gratitude. "Then I guess we both survived him." "Yeah," Victor said softly. "We did." That afternoon, Harper stood at the front of a small auditorium filled with survivors, therapists, journalists, and students. The event banner read, "Breaking the Cycle, Voices of Recovery." Cameras recorded, but she didn't notice. All she saw was a room full of people who needed to hear the truth in a world too accustomed to silence. She took a breath and began, voice clear and steady. "I used to be someone who thought love meant obedience. That pain meant growth. That the only way to be worthy was to surrender everything I was to someone who promised he could fix me." The room was silent. "Marcus Webb taught me those lies. He took pieces of me and called them lessons. He called the scars on my body proof of enlightenment. And I believed him, because when someone takes your loneliness and dresses it as belonging, it's easy to mistake it for love." Her gaze met a young woman in the front row wiping away tears. Harper continued, "But what I learned, what I'm still learning, is that real love doesn't ask you to erase yourself. It asks you to stand, to choose yourself, even when it hurts." A quiet ripple of nods moved across the audience. Harper glanced at her note cards, but didn't read them. The words were in her heart now. "I'm not here to tell you my story for sympathy. I'm here because people like Marcus Webb exist everywhere. Charismatic leaders, romantic partners, manipulative friends. They wear many faces. They all work the same way. They find weakness, they isolate, and they convince you that you're nothing without them. And when you start to believe it, that's when the real damage happens." Her voice broke slightly, but she pressed on. "I'm proof that you can come back from that. But nobody does it alone." She looked toward the back of the room, where Victor stood watching, unmoving except for the faintest nod. "You need people who refuse to give up on you, even when you scream that you hate them. That's what real family looks like." When she finished, the room erupted into applause. Some stood. Others just cried quietly, not for pity, but for recognition. Healing had a sound, and it was collective. Afterward, a reporter approached her. "What do you want people to remember most from this?" "That survival isn't the end," Harper said. "Healing takes longer, and it takes courage. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's about taking back the power to define what comes next." A week later, Harper visited the site where the compound once stood. The property looked unremarkable now, just open fields, patches of wildflowers creeping over the soil. The government had turned it into a community center for trauma support. She knelt, pressing her palm to the earth where her prison used to be. The ground felt cool and alive, reborn. "You don't own me anymore," she whispered. Victor watched from a distance, letting her have the moment. She stood after a minute, shoulders squared, face lifted to the wind. "I think I'm ready to move forward," she said when she reached him. "You already are," he replied. They drove home in silence, but it wasn't the heavy silence they used to share. It was the peaceful kind, filled with things that didn't need to be said. Months passed. Harper started volunteering with cult rehab groups, mentoring the same kind of lost people she used to be. Every story she heard reminded her how easily human pain became prey, and how important it was that someone stood guard against it. At home, Victor built something new too, a nonprofit foundation helping other families recognize psychological manipulation. He called it Project Reconnect. Harper named it. Together, they made sure that Marcus Webb's legacy began and ended with awareness and prevention. One Thursday evening, Victor came home to find Harper sitting on the porch with a box of old letters from support groups. Survivors had written to thank her, some still struggling, some rebuilding, all alive because they'd seen her speak. "Do you ever miss who you were before all this?" Victor asked, sitting beside her. Harper thought for a long moment. "No, because that version of me didn't know how strong she could be." She smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "You know, there's one thing Marcus accidentally taught me, how powerful belief can be. He used it to destroy people, but I can use it to heal them." Victor smiled. "That's your gift now, turning pain into purpose." The night air smelled like rain again, just like the night she came home months ago. Only now, the rain no longer symbolized grief. It was cleansing, life-giving, real. "I'm proud of you, Harper," he said quietly. "You should be proud of yourself, too. You didn't just save me. You changed how the world fights people like him." "Maybe," Victor said. "But if I've learned anything, it's that justice doesn't end in a courtroom. It ends when healing begins." Harper nodded. "Then we're just getting started." They sat in silence, watching the rain dance across the yard where ghosts used to live. The porch light glowed softly behind them, like a promise that home could exist again, even after darkness. And to everyone watching this story till the end, thank you. Love is not control. Faith isn't surrender. And every scar, visible or hidden, tells a truth that deserves to be heard. If you were Victor, would you have fought the same way? Or would you have taken another path for justice? Tell your thoughts below. Your voice matters here. Also, tell us where are you watching from tonight. Drop your city or country in the comments. We love knowing how far our stories reach. Your support builds every heartbeat of this channel. So, if this story touched you even a little, tap like, subscribe gently, and share it with someone who needs to believe and hope again. We'll meet next time in another gripping, emotional, and powerful thriller of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. A story that will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Until we meet again, take care of your heart, protect your peace, and remember, even in ruins, you can rebuild. See you soon in the next epic story.